Hey, hello everyone. I don't think there's anyone watching, but hello. Um, so this is something quite different. If you are joining in, you're probably in one of two groups. You are following me, or subscribed to me in some way, either on YouTube or on Twitch, because of my usual air traffic control streams on VATSIM. And if that's the case, you'll probably be quite confused now. Alternatively, you've just found me by scrolling through Twitch or YouTube and you're kind of looking for coding streams, or you saw it come up and you thought might be interesting. Well, probably not, but welcome. But yeah, I'm doing something different today. So I'm going to be doing some coding on stream because I'm bored and I want to do some coding. And I thought to keep myself, entertained, I'd stream, and hopefully there will be some of you to interact with. So that's the plan. So if you are from my group of followers / subscribers and you're usually here for ATC or VATSIM streams, then you might not know much about coding. Chances are you probably do, because apparently there's quite an overlap. But you might not know what Advent of Code is, and to be honest, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but basically it's a series of programming puzzles, programming challenges that are done every year for the month of December up to Christmas Day. And I've never kind of taken part, I've never really kind of done it, and given that it is currently the 11th of December, and I'm starting today, well I actually started yesterday, that obviously tells you I'm not really taking part today either. But, or this year, I should say. But I just felt like doing it. Again, I was bored. I just wanted to do some coding. So here we are. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, this is the Advent of Code page. And you might be able to see here, I've already done day 1 and 2. I did both of them yesterday. And I actually recorded one of them, but I realized I wasn't bothered editing it, and there was a lot there that was just boring to watch. So I decided I would stream instead, because that's a little bit easier. But yeah, I've done the first 2 days already. Obviously, you can see day 12 is going to be published in, well, almost 14 hours. So I've quite a little bit of catch up to do, and I have no intention of catching up all the way to today. But we'll see, you know, where we get to. So I have about 2.5 hours. I'd say that's we could do maybe 1 or 2 days worth of coding today. And you might see on the title there it says learning Python. I know programming. I can program, so you're not going to be watching. If you are watching, you're not going to be watching a total noob learning how to code. I do know how to code. Just not in Python. It's always been a language that I've felt is easy enough that I can always just kind of wing it and just try and do something in it and get it working. But I want to try and get more familiar with it. That's kind of my challenge. And part of the reason that I'm doing this is I'm hoping to, by the end of this, be a little bit more comfortable with Python and just be able to essentially, you know, open up, you know, have an idea and just be able to do it without having to Google every single part of it, you know, how to do this in Python. So that's the plan. That's also why I didn't particularly want to stream the first 2 days. It was especially that first challenge was really just me Googling, okay, how do I write a for loop in Python? So that wasn't interesting. So hopefully by today, having done 2 of the challenges already, and actually each one is 2 challenges, so I've actually done 4 already. And I was thinking we might go through the days 1 and 2. So can I make this a little bit bigger here on this side, just so that you can see the instructions here. So this was day 1, and the challenge was we have input that looks a little bit like this. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. But we have input that looks a little bit like this, separated into lines. And what we need to do is we need to find the first digit and the last digit and concatenate them, basically add them together, combine them to make a new number. So in the case of this first line, the number would be 12. In the case of the second line, the number would be 38. 15 for this line here, whoops. And 77 then for this line down here. and then we just add all of those together, we get a number in the end. So that was the first part of the challenge. In part 2, there's a kind of added complexity in that some of the digits are actually written out as their words. So instead of being the number 2 here, it's the word for the number 2, and that counts as the first digit. So the answer here would be 29, not 11, because we have the number 2 here at the start, and we have the number 9 there at the end. And so I might just show you how I solved each one of those. So for the first part, fairly straightforward. I go through each character, going sort of left to right initially, and once I find one that is a number, I save it. And then I do the same thing going back to front. So I start at the end, and the first digit that I find, that I save. And then I convert them. Obviously, these are characters, so I need to convert them to actual numbers. So I did a little trick here by using the ASCII code for each character. That's a very easy way to convert digits to their numbers. It turns out there's probably a much easier way, but I'm used to having to do something like this to get numbers out of characters. But I just subtract 48 because that's how you convert an ASCII code to its digit, actual digit. If you're talking about the characters 0 through 9. And then once I have them as numbers, I can multiply the first one by 10 and add it on to the last one, and that's it. So 1 times 10 is going to give me 10, plus the 2 is going to give me 12, which is the answer for the first one. So this one was fairly straightforward. Again, it just took me a while to get working, just because I'm not used to Python. So I think this actually took me like half an hour, which really should have taken me about 5 minutes at most. And I also had a stupid error where instead of writing and, I wrote or, and so I was trying to debug that for like another 20 minutes. But that's fairly simple. First puzzle of the year. Part B was a little bit more interesting, and I wrote a solution which I had to then optimize quite significantly because it was very, very slow, even for Python standards. But the sort of basic stuff is still the same. So we look at the first character. If it's a digit, then, well, great, we're done there. If it isn't a digit, we now have the possibility that this is actually the word for a digit. And so what I've done here is I've written up a little dictionary that maps the words to actual digits. And what I started doing initially, just to kind of walk you through maybe the process and my thought process when I was working on it was, okay, well, I'll look at the first number, or the first character, I should say, and check if that's one of the digits. And I then look at this next character combined with the first character, is that one of the numbers, and then keep going until I find one that is a number. If I get to the end of the string and I didn't find a number, then we ignore the first character altogether and move on to the next one. Now in this one, I would have finished pretty early on because I have the T, W, and O. That together makes 2. But if we look at this example here, this is actually really, really bad. So I was, as in the performance was really bad because I was going, well, is A a number? No. Is AB a number? No. What about ABC? What about ABCO? And so on, until we got to the end of the string. Obviously, that is not a number. We then went to BC and so on, and then so it's O of n for every single character. So it's actually O(n) squared. So it was very, very bad. And so then finally it would find the 1, but it would take a long time. And then the same thing going backwards still applies. So the kind of optimization that I ended up doing eventually was, we first check if it's a digit. You can see that here. We check if it is an actual digit. Great, we can stop there. Otherwise, let's think about the letter that we're looking at, or even if we're looking at well, let's start with just the one character we're looking at, and we consider which numbers that could actually be. So we actually create a list of options. So if we found the letter T, well, we know it's not going to be the number 1. We know it's not going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. We know it can only be 2 or 3. And so we still have 2 possibilities in this case. We still have the possibility that this T is actually part of a digit. We then combine it with the next letter, and we go, okay, well, is TW potentially a word? And yes, it can still be 2. So that's great. But we go to the next character, and look, it is 2. So that's great. And so that means then for ABC and so on, whereas previously it was very, very inefficient, we now have a much, much, much more efficient algorithm which goes, okay, is A a digit? It isn't. Okay, can it be part of a number? No, it can't be, because none of these start with the letter A. Great, so we can move on. We don't need to look at all of these. We've skipped an entire n worth checks by just checking if it was even possible. So then we look at B. Is B possible? No, it isn't. We then look at C. Is C possible? No, it isn't. We look at O. Is O possible? Yes, it is. There's only one option, so let's have a look if it works. We go to N. Still possible. We go to E, and so on. An optimization that I've only just kind of realized now, kind of talking through this, that I could make is once we know that there is only one possibility, we don't need to be going character by character to check it if it is. We can actually check maybe the whole word. We know that the only possibility we have has 3 letters in it, so we might as well check the next 3 letters together right then and there rather than continue with the loop. So that's a potential, optimization. I think it'd be a very, very slight difference. And that worked. It took me quite a while to figure out how to do for loops backwards in Python, and that was quite annoying, because I'm quite used to being in control of my iterator, and not being in control of it makes it quite difficult. And it took me quite a while to figure out the little kind of formula that I needed to use to get the indices for the substring that I was trying to get, and so on. But I got it done. Probably took me altogether day one. Probably took me an hour and a half ish. Maybe an hour. I took a couple breaks. So that was day one. I might have a look at day 2 as well while we're here. Day 2 was interesting as well. I thought day 2 was a lot easier than day 1. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people will have found this one a little bit harder, but really this was mostly about string processing. Just kind of figuring out how to deal with a string that is has information that's not always in the right order, not always in the same order, with a few different things in it. So it's mostly a challenge in string processing, and that's actually something that is quite easy to do with Python, thankfully. So the first challenge was to check. So just to recap, actually, what the problem was. We have a series of games where cubes are pulled out of a bag randomly, and we just log what the cubes were at each time we did it. And a game consists of a certain number of times that we went into the bag, looked at the cubes, put them back into the bag. And there's 3 color cubes. There is red, green, and blue cubes. And so then the challenge for the first part of day 2 was to figure out which games were possible and which were impossible if the bag only contained 12 cubes, or 12 red cubes, 13 green cubes, and 14 blue cubes. So for example, if we look at game 3 isn't possible because we can see at one stage we took out 20 red cubes, and we only have 12 to take from, so that doesn't work. So really it was fairly straightforward, and you go through and look at each game. In each game we have these sets or subsets. They're separated by a semicolon. So in the case of game 1 we have 3. For the first time we picked up 3 blue, 4 red, then 1 red, 2 green, 6 blue, then 2 green. And so what we do is we look at each one and we go, okay, well, here we picked out 3 blue. Do we have 3 blue to choose from? Yeah, we have 14, so that's fine. Let's look at the next one. Do we have 4 red? Yep, we have 12. Do we have 1 red? Yes. Do we have 2 green? Yes. Do we have 6 blue? Yes, and so on. And then if we go to get game 3, we'd go, do we have 8 greens? Yes. Do we have 6 blue? Yes. Do we have 20 red? No. So we now know that game 3 is impossible, and we can ignore it. So fairly straightforward. But, O of N, really, there's not much. I'm sure there are ways that it could be made better, but to be honest, it was pretty straightforward. So we're just dividing it up into the different. You can see here we're splitting it up into the subsets, and then we are splitting it up into each kind of color that we found by splitting it with the comma, and then we're looking, okay, is it red, is it green, is it blue? And if so, we compare it to our kind of bag setup, which I've defined here at the top. Fairly straightforward. And 2B, I actually thought was even more straightforward in a way, which was we need to find well, I suppose it's not more straightforward, but it's very similar, a lot of the same code. We now need to not decide whether each game is possible or impossible given a certain bag. what we need to do is find essentially the smallest bag that will make each game possible. And that's that, basically. So in the case of game 1, we basically need to find the biggest number that we found blues. So in this case, it'll be 6 would be the biggest blue. We need to find the biggest number of greens, which appears to be 2, and the biggest number of reds, which appears to be 4. So then it'll be 4 reds, 2 greens, and 6 blues would be all we need to get that first one working. And so on. So we need to basically go through all of the numbers, find the maximum for each one of the colors, and save that, basically. That's it. And then, well, there's an extra little bit of maths where you have to multiply them together and add them up, but that's basically it. Really, the challenge is finding that minimum set. But it wasn't particularly difficult. So we start with a minimum set. We assume that we need 0 of all of them, and then every time if we find a red, if we check if the number of reds we found is bigger than the current minimum set that we're holding, and if it is, we update that minimum set. And then by the end, once we've read through the entire game, we'll know what the minimum set is. Pretty simple stuff, I thought, anyway. So I thought day 2 was actually a lot simpler than day 1. It was a little bit more trivial. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's have a look at day 3. I haven't looked at this. So you could see me just have a brain fart now and just completely struggle to do a very simple programming challenge, and you'll definitely see me struggle with Python now. But yeah, let's see. So I'm going to maximize this for a minute and have a proper read through this. So day 3, gear ratios. You and the elf, eventually, there's always a little kind of backstory that goes along with this. So yeah, I don't care too much for the backstory, to be honest, but it's nice. So you and the elf, you're basically just walking with an elf after being thrown into the sky by a trebuchet, so whatever. Yeah. You and the elf eventually reach a gondola lift station. Is that the like the ones in Venice? Is that a gondola, or am I thinking? I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. Gondola, I don't know. A gondola lift station. Gondola sounds better. A gondola lift station. He says the gondola lift will take you up to the water source, but this is as far as he can bring you. You go inside. It doesn't take long to find the gondolas, but there seems to be a problem. They're not moving. Ah. You like my acting skills? Ah. You turn around to see a slightly greasy elf with a wrench and a look of surprise. Sorry, I wasn't expecting anyone. The gondola lift isn't working right now. It'll still be a while before I can fix it. You offer to help. The engineer explains that an engine part seems to be missing from the engine, but nobody can figure out which one. If you can add up all of the part numbers in the engine schematic, it should be easy to work out which part is missing. The engine schematic, your puzzle input, consists of a visual representation of the engine. There are lots of numbers and symbols you don't really understand, but apparently any number adjacent to a symbol, even diagonally, is a part number, and should be included in your sum. Periods, or full stops, do not count as a symbol. Okay, interesting. So any number that is adjacent to a symbol, even diagonally. So this 4 is adjacent to this, to a symbol. Sorry, and full stops do not count. But I assume other digits count, or unless it's the whole number. Is it 467? 467 is adjacent to that star. Let's see. So let's read out the example here. So here's an example engine schematic. In this schematic, 2 numbers are not part numbers because they are not adjacent to a symbol. 114, top right. Yeah, we can see there's not a symbol to the left of it, there's not a symbol to the right of it, nothing below it, and nothing diagonally. Okay. And 58, middle right. Yeah, same thing, nothing to the left, nothing to the right, nothing below it, nothing above it, nothing diagonally. So we're looking at, if I can maybe draw on the screen, will you be able to see this? I'll check now, but we're essentially looking at a region like this. If I can draw it. There you go. I'm not sure if you can see that on stream. Yeah, I think you could have. Yeah, I think you did see it there for a second. But we're looking at that region and seeing if there's any symbols. Every other number is adjacent to a symbol, and so is a part number. Their sum is 4,361. Of course, the actual engine schematic is much larger. What is the sum of all of the part numbers in the engine schematic? Let's get our puzzle input. So there it is. Okay. This is interesting. So there's a couple of things we need to do. So for every number that we find, and we can see it isn't always 3-digit numbers. Sometimes we have 2-digit numbers, for example, this 59, or sometimes we have single-digit numbers, like this 7. So what we need to figure out is for each number that we find, and we need to go through until we need to first find all the numbers. So that'd be one thing. We need to find a number. So we read through character by character, we find a number, great, and then we need to find the entire number. So we go until there's a full stop. And that's our number. And once we have that number, what we need to figure out is the indices of all of the adjacent cells, including diagonals, that we need to check. And we check all of those, and if any of them are a symbol, and symbols appear to be stars, can I find, is there an example here of one that maybe has a number adjacent to it? That's what I want to figure out, if it's a number. Does a number count as an adjacent symbol? I suspect it might. It only says that periods or full stops aren't symbols. So, okay, that's our challenge. So let's open up Sublime here. Is what I'm going to be using. I was using idle for day 1, and I hate it. So we're not going to use idle. So let's make a new folder here. We're going to call day 3. That's in the wrong place. Can I move it? Move. Like so. There we go. And in here, we are going to make a new file, which we're going to call 3A. I'm calling it A because we have A and B puzzles every day. And we also need to download our input. So let's download our input. Save page as, oh, no, not save page to Pocket. I'm not sure what that does. Save page as, we're going to clear day 3, save it as input. Go. And I'm also going to create a new file here, which we're going to call, oh, okay. Okay, so this is going to be our test input, because I'm going to use this to start off with. This will make things a little bit easier. I'm going to save this as test. There we go. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, as always with I think almost all of these, is we're going to need to load a file. I can never remember what the syntax is. Thankfully, I don't need to because I used it already. So input, open, and we're going to use test, our test input initially. So first thing I'd like to do just to try out is I want to find all of the numbers and I want to print them out. So I'm going to go through character by character. When I find a number, I'm going to go until I find something that isn't a number. That's the plan. Okay. So for line in input, what we're going to do is for character in line. I suppose we don't actually need to do... I suppose we do need to do this. Okay. So for every character in the line, how do I want to do this? Well, I may be trying to think, do I want to just add them to a list, or do I want to print out... I think for the moment I want to print out, because I don't think adding them to a list is going to be particularly useful, because ideally I'm going to be kind of looking at everything as we go, as we find numbers. So suppose what we want to do here is check if our character is a number. That's easy enough to do, which is to say if our character is greater than or equal to the character 0, and our character is less than or equal to our character 9. Essentially, we're checking if it's a digit character. And if it is, we essentially want to find the rest of it. So what we might do is we might actually convert this. Yeah, so let's do this. So let us make a value n here 0, or start with the semicolon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert n or going to convert our character. If we find a digit, I'm going to convert it to an integer, which I know I did a trick earlier where I used the ordinal, so I converted to ASCII code and then subtracted 48. I'm just going to use the integer, the int method. So I'm going to go n, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply n times 10, and I'm going to add my character to n. And the reason I'm going to do multiply by 10 is that what this will do is it will find so let's go through the test input here. So it finds the 4. It's going to add that. It's going to multiply n by 10. N starts off as 0, so it's going to be 10 times 0 is still 0, and it's going to add 4. So n is now 4. I'm going to go look at the next character, and it is a digit, so what it'll do is it'll multiply n by 10, so n is now 40, and it's going to add 6 to that, so we now have 46. We look at the next one, it's also a digit, so we multiply n by 10, we get 460, we add 7. So now we have the number 467 saved into n. And then finally what we want to do is, once we find the dot, that's the wrong one, so once we find the dot, so else if, I suppose just else, so if it's not a digit, then this is where we now need to do all of our kind of to-do maths. That's where we're going to do all of our kind of complicated, well, it's not going to be particularly complicated, but that's where we're going to do all of our maths to figure out all of the indices that we need to check. And once we're done, we want to set n equal to 0. So we want to basically reset so that the next time we find a number, n is equal to 0 again. So that's great because that's our starting code. Now this maths, so if we find, let's say we're looking at the second line here, we look at this first character, it isn't a number. Currently we'd go into this else here, and I don't want to do all of the maths if we don't have a number found. So what I actually want to do here is this to do maths is going to go in an if that checks if n is not equal to 0. So if not, n is equal to 0. I have to do it this way, don't I? I can't just say n not equal to 0. I believe this doesn't work. Let's print out, great, this is a great point to print out n just to see if this worked out. This to do will go in there, and I suppose this could just go in here, but yeah, let's actually, yeah, let's indent it, because if n wasn't equal to 0, then we don't need to set it to 0. So basically that. Okay, let's test this, see if it worked. It finished in 177 milliseconds, which is great, but right, great. Okay, so this didn't work. It didn't give me an error, so I think I do need to say not. Okay, maybe. Okay, Josh says it works. Okay, so I've clearly done something wrong somewhere. What have I done wrong? Is this maybe not working? Can I print out whenever I found something? Can I maybe print out n? Okay, so it found 4, yeah, so it's finding the numbers, so that's great. So then, okay, well then I'm going to get rid of this because I really don't like the syntax. So you're saying this works, so I'll take your word for it. I'll blame you otherwise. So now what? Why? So it's printing out the numbers. So what I want to figure out. See, it's printing n, but it should be printing out the numbers. So where's this gone wrong? Okay, hang on. Checking. Stand by. We are checking. Okay, grand. I don't know. I think. Hang on. If I look at my previous day codes, there's somewhere where I used not because I tried to use that and it didn't work. I can't remember where it was. I think I might have tried to negate an entire condition. Maybe that's what I tried to do. Rather than... Yes, I think I tried doing this. There we go. I think I tried doing this if not set as possible. So I think that's what didn't work. There we go. So, grand. You can do it with the equal sign, which is great. Okay. So this isn't working because n should be getting multiplied by 10. So that's what appears to not be working. Oh, right. We're setting n to 0. Right, we don't want to do that there. We don't also... I suppose actually, yes, we do want to do it per line. Because numbers aren't going to be... Yeah, so that's fine. We can do it per line. Right, sorry. There's the error. So I don't need this print. I'm confident now this will work. There we go. So we found the numbers 467, 114, 35, 633, 617. Great. So this appears to be working. So we have figured out a way to find the numbers. So now we need to do the maths. So what is the maths? I'm not sure if you've been... you guys have been watching, but basically what we want to do now is, once we have a number, we want to look at all of the characters around it, including the diagonals. So in the case of this 58 here, we want to look at these 4, at these 2 here, and then these 4 down here. And we want to see if any of those aren't a full stop. So we need to do a little bit of maths to figure out what the indices are for all of these characters. For all of these characters. So let's take this number 58, for example. We're going to have... I'm going to do it just... should I do this in a new... Where should I do this? I'll open it up here. I don't want to use my test there. So let's take the number 58 there. That number 58 has... well, it has... Okay. So it's going to have, let's say, an x and a y. We have our input, so we can say that our input x, y, if we were to write it like this, which I think we can do in Python, would be 5, right? That's what I'm assuming here. And input x plus 1, y plus 1. I might have my x and y is still y. Might have my x and y the wrong way around. This should be the 8, right? So now, yes, I do have this the wrong way around. So it'll be y and then x, just because of the way that I'm doing it line by line and then character by character. So it's going to be like this. So this is 5 and 8. So now what I want is, given this x and y and the length of the string, or the number, I should say, I want to figure out all of the indices that I need. So I'm always going to need, I'm going to write here the ones that I'm always going to need. I'm always going to need x minus 1, y, and then x minus 1, y minus 1, and then x minus y minus 1, y plus 1. So these ones I'm going to need regardless of the length of the string. And actually I'm going to need the one above it. So I'm going to need x and then y minus 1 and the one below it. So these I'm going to always need regardless of the end of the string. So that accounts for this, this, and this. So now what I want to do is, for every digit I want to for every other digit that we have in the number, I actually want to try and do this algorithmically. So I'm going to break this down a little bit more. So I'm going to start with these 3. These 3 I'm always going to need to check. Let's imagine for a second that L, yeah, sure, that L is the length of our number. So in other words, the number of digits. So I'm going to have this, but I'm also going to have x plus L. Does this make sense? So in this case, L is 2. So this is x. We have x plus 1 is this, x plus 2 is this. Yeah, that makes sense. So these 2 I'm always going to need. And then I can get the other ones kind of algorithmically. So for every digit that I have, I want to get the one above it and the one below it. So I want to go... yeah, so I want to just... Okay, see, something I'm thinking of is, rather than finding the entire number, and then doing the maths is actually the moment we find a number, we can start checking for the ones behind it and the ones above and below it. So I'm going to change this slightly. I'm still going to have this n value here. And I still want to keep track of it. And the reason that I want to keep track of it is that then I need to add them together. Right? Because, yeah. So their sum is 4,361. What is the sum of all of the part numbers? Yeah. So I then need to add them together. So I still need to kind of keep track of n. And all I want to do here actually is... okay, so here's what we're going to do. If we find a number, and n is equal to... So we find a number. Before we update n, let's check if n is equal to 0. We don't need brackets, sorry. If n is equal to 0. Because if n is equal to 0, this means this is the first digit of a bigger possible part number. So what I want to do at this stage is I want to check... I want to check the row... or the column, I should say, check... Well, x minus 1. I want to check all of x minus 1. Now, regardless of if this is the first digit or not, for every digit that we find, I want to check above and below it. So here I'm going to check y minus 1 and y plus 1. Okay, and then finally, if we find something that isn't a number, so let's say we're looking at this 592, for example. So we first find a 5, and n is going to be equal to 0, so we're going to check the numbers to the left of the 5, so these three, this column to the left of the 5. Then we're also going to check the one above and below the 5. Then we're going to go to the 9, and because n is no longer 0, because we're going to have updated n down here, because n is no longer 0, we're not going to look at the ones before to the left of the 9, we're only going to look at the ones above and below. We're then going to look at the 2, and we're going to look above and below. And finally, we find a number that, or find a character that isn't a digit. When we do that, we know that we've reached, we check if n is not equal to 0, which is what we're doing here. And if it isn't equal to 0, we then want to check this column. So here what we want to do is check x plus 1. Okay. Now, if we've gotten to this point and we have found any symbols, or if we get to this point and we find a symbol, in this case we would find the plus. What we want to do is we want to add it to our answer. So we're going to have, let's call it, can I call it sum? I don't like that it goes blue, so I'm going to call it answer. We're going to be equal to 0 initially. And we're going to, if it all works out, we're going to add it. Okay, so that's the plan. Now, one more thing I want to do is, there's potential for a slight optimization here. For example, if we consider let's see, what's a good example here? I think 633 is the best example here. If we consider this number, when we find the 6, we're going to look at the one above and the one below it, and we're going to find a symbol instantly. What that tells us is we now no longer need to look for these, because we already have found a symbol. So all we want to do then is find the end of the number. And once we found the end of the number, we can just add it. So what we're going to do as well is we're going to keep track of have I found a number? Sorry, have I found a symbol? So let's call it is. It's an engine part, wasn't it? Is engine part? Yeah, or is part. Let's just call it is part. And initially it's going to be equal to false. So now every time we check one, if we find that it is, we set this to true, and then all of the other checks we only run All of the checks we only run if this part is equal to false. That makes sense? That makes sense. We don't necessarily need to do it in this first one, but we're going to write it anyway just for consistency. So if... Josh, you might correct me here. Can I do this if not is part? Or does this also not work? Do I need to say not? I think I might need to say not, don't I? So if not is part, we want to check x minus 1. Bloody Python. Then we want to do the same thing down here. So if not is part, we want to check above and below. And if we reach the end of the number and we still haven't determined whether it's a part or not, we check. Now, regardless of whether it's a part or not, we're going to set n equal to 0 when we finish, because we have found the whole number. And we're also going to set its part to false. Because we want to reset that. Okay. So now the bit which I've been avoiding, which is calculating these indices. This is what I now need to do. So, how do I want to do this? So, sorry, this should be indented here. There we go. How do I want to do this? Because obviously something we need to bear in mind as well is, for example, this 467. We found the first digit, but we actually don't have anything at the left of it. So we don't want, obviously we don't want to check those numbers. So when we go to check for, let's say this, any number, when we find our first digit, we should actually, actually the first thing I should do here is figure out my x and y. So I did this in a previous one with the enumerate function. Was it in my day one? I think it was. There we go. So for I and character in enumerate line. So this is the way this works. So for I and char. Now I'm not going to call this I, I'm going to call this x. And likewise, it's going to be for y and line in enumerate input. So I believe this is I learned a new word yesterday while figuring out some of this. This is the Pythonic way of doing this. Whereas normally in something like, let's say C, I would do something like for int equals I equals 0, or sorry, int I equals 0, I less than the length, and so on. But that's not very Pythonic, is it? Exactly. So I need to do it this way. The Pythonic way of doing it is to use the enumerate method on the input, and then that returns a tuple, I think. Or it returns two values anyway, which is the index, if you want it, and the actual value. Yeah, it's a fun one. Okay. Okay. So now that I have it, I only want to check x minus 1, obviously, if x is greater than or equal to 1. So that's one more thing, one more if to add here. So if x is greater than or equal to, or greater than 0, I should say, I think that's a lot easier to understand here, we then check x minus 1. There's a similar thing to do here, which is that I only want to check, so let's separate these two because I'm going to have to eventually anyway, which is that I only want to check y minus 1 if y is greater than 1, than 0, sorry. So then I want to check y minus 1. And if y is less than, and this needs to be the height of my input. How do I get the height of my input? How do I get the height of my input? Well, it would be the input, the length of the input as a whole divided by the number of lines, isn't it? Sorry, divided by the number, the length of the line. Does that make sense? So in this case, we have, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters in one line. And I suspect we have 10 lines, so this is 100. So if we got the length of the entire input, we would get 100. And if we get the length of a single line, we get 10. So the height of my input is going to be my total length divided by the length of the line. There we go. So let's calculate the height. This is obviously assuming that our input is consistent length, which it would appear to be. I know it's wrapping around, but if I make this smaller, there we go. See, it's even. So that's important. So it's, you know, potentially if you were working on with a larger data set that you don't know very well, that's maybe an assumption you don't want to make. But in this case, I have checked the data and I know that it's an assumption I can make. Now, it's not very smart to... we can do it here, I suppose, but it's not necessary to do it in the for loop. We actually only really need to do it once. So that's fine. So height, my height, let's just call it h. My h is going to be the length of my input. I'm not sure this works, or if I need to go for something else. Divided by the length of this. This should work, right? Can we print out n? Or, sorry, h? Should run, right? Is this not running? Colons. Let's get rid of this for a moment. What do you not like? Selected an indented block. Is it just because I haven't... Is it just because I haven't finished these if statements? Or did I mix something up here with my indentation somewhere? Do... and I do it here as well. I just want to get this running. Okay, it changed. Here you want one as well. Sorry, there. And here, of course, you want one here as well. Oh god, no, not there. Sorry, I'll get rid of all of these later. Aha, okay. Text IO wrapper has no length, so I suspect it's this. So I think there is a method here. .read, is that what it was? I'm not sure if it's complaining about this one or this one now. Okay, let's say L is gonna be the length of this. Want to test out which one it is that isn't working, and let's call it my width is gonna be the length of first one, and my height is gonna be my total divided by my width. This should really be called my area. Okay. There we go. So it's the width and like, so if I go .read, ooh, will this work? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is the correct syntax. It's not defined. Yes, I renamed it. Very smart. Division by 0. Okay, great. How do I get Python open read? What I want. So f.read 5 returns the first 5 characters. Right, of course that doesn't work. But read line and return 1 line by using read line. But see, I don't like this because I have a feeling that the read line kind of gets rid of it, doesn't it? It's just input. Here, you mean? Yeah, I think you might be right about that. Now, see, it gave me an error there because it's not the length of the input. It's because the input is a file. I need to read. So this is going to return the entire kind of string there. So all I want is I want to do read line. But I'm only doing this because I wanted to avoid calculating the height for every single line because I know that it's going to be the same value every time. Sorry, yes, I suppose that's not a very great variable name, but in this case, sorry, input isn't a function in this case. Because this is my test data. So yeah, that might be why it's maybe confusing, because it's looking like a function when it isn't actually. That's fine. Look, I can just do it here. I just didn't want to do it in the for loop because I didn't want to calculate h every single time. But that's fine. I can calculate h. So I want the length of, as this is still correct, h is going to be the length of input.read, and then divide that by the length of line. I just didn't want to do it in the for loop because we don't need to do it in the for loop. Yeah, exactly. It just highlights it as blue because it's a built-in function, but it doesn't seem to cause any issues. That's fine. Okay, this should work. It's just I didn't want to do it in here, but it's fine. It won't cause performance issues. 8.9. Well, that's not great. It shouldn't be a decimal number. Why did it give me 8.9? Okay, can we print out the both of these maybe? That's fine. And print out the length of a line. So 98 and 11. Oh, interesting. Shouldn't be 98, should be 100. How did I get 98? And how did I get 11? Am I sorry? We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 characters in it. How did it get 11? Oh, because of the new line. There's a new line character. Okay, so that explains why it got 11. So I need to kind of do -1 here. But how did I get 98 then? I don't want to hard code this, so I obviously I could just do it. I've forgotten why I even need to get this height. I remember now. Yeah, so the new line character is causing issues for the length of the line, but that's fine. So I can just subtract -1. Sorry, I can just subtract 1. But the length of the entire input should be 100. Maybe, but it seems to be ignoring. So let's assume that that's the case. Let's assume that we have, well, sorry, that we don't have one there, but we have one in all of these. That would be 11 times 9, which would be 99, plus another 9. So it should be 108, not 98. But I don't think it is that. So it seems when it's counting the entire input, it doesn't seem to care for the new lines. It's only when it looks at the individual lines that it cares. So then why are we getting 98? I don't understand. Can I print out, maybe, can I just print out, what is topic? Good question. So we are doing Advent of Code, day 3. I'll show you that in a second. Did it print everything out there? I think we're missing something there, no? Yeah, look, we're missing the first line. Why are we missing the first line? Is it because... Yeah, sorry, I'll explain shortly. Obviously, I explained it at the start. But yeah, we're doing Advent of Code. I'm catching up on it because it's currently day 11. Day 12 is going to come out in just under 13 hours. You can see I've done days 1 and 2 already. Oh, sorry, I'll turn it up. You can let me know. So I'm doing day 3 at the moment, which is what we're looking at doing. I basically need to find numbers in a dataset and then look at all of the characters around it and look for symbols like this star, this numeral, the plus, the $sign. So I have managed to figure out the numbers, and what I want to do now is get the indices of the characters that I need to check around it. So I didn't mean to open the terminal. There we go. So what I'm trying to do here now is get the height. I want to get the height of my input, which should be 10. So what I want to do is I want to find the number of lines. the number of lines. There might actually be, so this is, and hence why the title says Learning Python. Python is not a language I'm very familiar with, so there could be very easily a function here that actually tells me how many lines there are. So Python line count. If you have one to hand, Josh, sure. Yeah, it could be useful, to be fair. What is this? Oh, read lines. So read lines reads all lines from a file and stores it in a list. Well, there we go. That sounds like a solution. And we don't really care about... Yeah, that's fine. Let's do it that way. We can use the read lines. So our lines is going to be read lines. I'm just worried about... sorry, is it read lines? No, other way around. So what is it called? Input.readlines. Should we call it... Sorry. No, in us is also some keyword. Okay. Did I spell it wrong? No, I think I didn't. Okay. So lines is going to be... So then finally our height is going to be the length of this. So actually I don't need... I can just put this in here. Don't need to save it into another variable. Okay. Done. Can I print this out? See if it works. 10. There we go. That's all I needed. No need to delete anything or divide anything. There we go. So we have our height. This is what I wanted. And the reason I wanted this, for those of you that just joined, is that I want to... Let's imagine that I'm looking I'm looking at the number 664. I want to check the characters all around it. So that obviously includes the characters above it, but also the characters below it. But since 664 is the last line, or is on the last line, there are no characters below it. And so all I wanted this for was to then here, and we can get rid of these, well, let's keep them there, this if statement here. So we've checked, we only want to read for characters above the line if we're not already on the top line. And similarly, we want to only do this if we're not already on the end. Does this need to be, I think this needs to be an equal sign. So if it's less than or equal to h, no, sorry, if it is less than h, let's think about that, sorry. So this would be index number 9. This would be index number 9. So we don't want to check the one below it. So if y is less than h minus 1, actually, is what we want to do. Okay, there we go. And so what this is going to do then is, let's add this empty print just so that it doesn't complain. We want to check y plus 1 if this is the case. Plus. There we go. So this is now correct, finally. We want to do a similar thing here. So if x is greater than 0, we obviously want to check x minus 1, but we'll want to check, because it's x minus 1, but it's these 3, actually, because it's x minus 1 at y, and then at y minus 1 and y plus 1. That's important as well. Okay. So how do I want to do this then? It's if... So what I'm now wondering is, can I do this? If input x, or yx, I should say. Can I, let's do this the other way around. So I'm not sure if this works, this syntax works. So can I just print out, can I just print out input x, oh, other way around, y, x? No, sorry, it shouldn't be the other way around. Sorry, I already did the work. Okay. Okay, finished. Okay, so that didn't print out anything, which isn't great. Can I just make sure that this if statement is doing anything at least? No, it isn't. I've been doing, I don't have them, they're all unlisted. So that might be, if you're looking at my channel, almost all of my videos and stuff, they're all unlisted. Well, yeah, sorry, it is, yeah, so I could just print XY, but what I want to print out is, I want to see if I can get a specific character. That's what I'm trying to figure out here, is if I can get a specific character from the input. I just want to make sure that this is working. No, see, it didn't print. It didn't print out A. Yeah, potentially, but because I put Y here and X here, I'm thinking maybe not. But yes, you might be right. Either way, it doesn't seem. It's not even printing AA, so something here is going wrong. So. I wonder if this isn't working. Not a part. Ooh, God. No, see, it didn't print that. But I'm guessing it'll print this. Digit. Okay, it's not printing anything. What have I done wrong? See, I now suspect. This is what I feared. Read lines actually interferes with the variable, I'm pretty sure. If I now were to print, input.read, I think I'm gonna get nothing. Yeah, there you go. See, this is what I didn't like about read lines. So read lines actually consumes the entire. Okay, I'll just to get around this for the minute. Yeah, actually, sorry, you're right. I could actually just use. I could actually use this, couldn't I? If I actually save this lines, input.read lines. I can call this lines, and then I don't need to enumerate my input. I can just enumerate my lines. This should now work. Can I just check? Okay, it didn't like this, so that's okay. Okay, great. It's printing stuff out. Great. Okay. There we go. That works. Okay, so it didn't like this. What didn't it like about this? Okay, so I want to get a specific character. So the problem is... Okay. So, oh, no. That's fine. So I think I should be able to do, let's say I do input X. I think this works, right? No. So how do I do Python car at index? See, there's another. Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah, you're very right about that. You're right. Input is not a string, it's the file. The other, so I'd probably want to do something like lines at X. But the problem now is... Okay, let's just test this out. Okay, great. So that's printing out the entire line. Can I now go like this? Yes, okay. That does print out specific characters. Okay, great. Okay, I didn't think that would work. Okay. So this is when it finds a number. Why are there... Oh, okay. Okay. So the first... I'm going to move this here because at the moment we're only looking at our test data. I'm going to keep that there, actually. Sorry. When we look at the 4, it's going to skip this at the moment, so that's fine. But when we look at the 1, I wanted to print the number 1. So, okay, let's try it like you said, with Y here and X here, 'cause I think you were right about that as well. We should only see digits here. Perfect. So we see a 1. The next one that we should see is the 3. There we go. Yeah, that's working. Okay, great. So this should be the starting ones of each number. 1, 3, we should see 6 next, then another 6. Oh, a 5. Where did you find a 5? 1, 3, 6. Oh, right, 6, 1, 7 didn't work because X is... Okay, that's fine. So then at 5... Okay, yeah, that's working. Sorry. That is working. Okay, great. Nice indeed. Okay, so now what we actually wanted to do here, now that we have, so we have found, let's go back now to our example here. Let's think about this 633 for a second. Let's say we find a 6. The first thing we want to do when we find the first digit, we want to check the one let's start by just checking the character to the left of it. That's all I want to do initially. So if my lines at y and then x minus 1, if this, what about this? If this isn't a period or a full stop, then that means it's a symbol. And that means that is part is now equal to group. Is part equals group. And we can probably break. We won't break just yet, but that's fine. I just haven't quite checked that yet. Sorry, this should be indented. This needs a colon. Yes, so that is what this if statement is here for. So I'm checking if x is greater than 0, then we can do x minus 1, and that's going to be fine. That's why I wanted to get the height initially, was just to add these checks here. So I want to check that. Now I also want to check for y. I need these two if statements again. Because I obviously... why is this doing that? Like so, okay. Now I also now want to check for y, because now that we have checked... let's think about the 633 again. We've now looked at this character, but we want to look at this character and this character. So the one just above that and the one just below it. But that's why we also need to check for our y. We want to make sure we're not at the top or at the bottom of our input. Otherwise, like you said, we're going to get an out of range error. So if y is greater than 0, then we can check if lines y minus 1... Why is this not indenting? Sorry. X minus 1, and then similarly if y plus 1, x minus 1 is not equal to a full stop. So what this has now done is it has checked the 3 characters to the left of the number. So the ones before the start of the number. So it has now checked these 3 numbers. And this is only going to be checked when we find the first digit of a number. So it's not going to be checked for all of them. It's only going to check it when we find one that is the start of a number. So it's not going to do that for the 3, because obviously it would then find the 6, and that would be a problem. So it's only going to do that for the 6. So we've already added in that logic. But what we now need to do is when we do find a number, we want to look at the symbols just above it and just below it. So this is very simple. It's basically this. We don't need this print anymore, and we don't need this comment anymore. So it's these 2 lines of code. Do it like that. There we go. These 2 lines of code that we want to do in here. You can see I already had some of that there. Oh god, the indentation. Like so. There we go. So now this is the same, but with x being the same as the x of that. Perfect. This is now complete. So now we're going through, when we find a number, if it's the first number, we check the ones to the left of it. And regardless of whether it's the first number or not, we check the ones above it and below it. And we do that for every number that we find. Once we find something that isn't a number, we now want to check we want to check those 3 as well. Now, actually, when we find something that isn't a number, we should check if it's a symbol. So if it's a symbol, sorry, if it's not, if car is not a full stop, well then is part is true. And then if not is part, so that means if that was a full stop, we want to check the ones above it and below it. So again, it's this code again. Sorry about the indentation, and then x plus 1 for both of these. No, sorry, it's not x plus 1. Well, it'd be x plus 1, but because we're looking at... Yeah, that's fine. So it's just x, because we're now looking at the first one. We're now looking at this. Right? Because this else is, yeah, if it's not. Okay, I think this is everything. We might clean this up still, because there's obviously a lot of repetition here. We're doing the same thing multiple times, so we might be able to clean this up a lot. But this is basically it. Okay, so finally, once we have done all of this, when we find once we finish reading a number, yeah, so I was right. We don't. Yeah, I was right to be cautious. I don't want to break out of these at any point because I want to get to the end of the number, and this else is when we get to the end of the number. I suppose this is when we get to the end of the number. Here, if we have found any symbols, if is part, we want to. Well, what did we want to do it? What did we want to do with it? I think we just need to add it, don't we? The sum of all of the part numbers. Yeah, we just want to add n, and we have been careful about keeping track of n. So we should be able to just say we have an answer. So answer plus equals n. And there we go. So let's test this out with our test input. Not n, answer. Do we have any print statements left that we want to get rid of? No, okay. 4,361. Is that the correct answer for the initial test input? Yes, it is. Okay, I'm very happy with that. Great. So now we can just run it on the full input rather than our test, and we get 524,242. Let's submit that. Oh no, that's not the right answer. Okay, we've made a mistake somewhere. Or did I copy too much? What happened there? We celebrated too early. Okay, interesting. So we did get the right answer for... Let's just check. We did get the right answer for our test input. It was 4,361. So, okay, so there has to be some kind of edge case here that we hadn't considered. So let's look at our full input here. Now, something I was worried about was the possibility of numbers being adjacent to other numbers. That's something I haven't accounted for. But I didn't immediately find one when I was kind of looking for that here. But let's see if I can find one now and see if that could be an issue. Because that would be an issue. Now, it didn't... the other reason I didn't really consider it was the fact that any number adjacent to a symbol, even diagonally, is a part number and should be included in your sum. Periods, or full stops as I call them, do not count as a symbol. But it doesn't say that numbers don't count as symbols. So that's what I wasn't too sure about. But given that it worked for my test input, and it didn't work for the actual input, I have a feeling that might be the issue. That there might be... Ooh, what about this empty line? Could this empty line be causing issues? Maybe. But I have a feeling that... Well, no, if this empty line would be causing issues, we'd be getting out of range errors for these numbers, so we're not getting that. Okay, so I just want to find a number Okay, yeah, so numbers aren't symbols. So I haven't actually written that into the code. In my code, numbers still count as symbols. So, okay, so let's write a little function here. Define is symbol, and we're just gonna read in a character. So we're gonna, if our character is equal to a full stop, we're gonna return false. Didn't like that. Why did I not like that? Do I need to do it this way? I don't know much Python, as you can tell. False, okay. And also, if my car is a number, then I'm also going to return false. And if we get to the end of this, then it was a symbol. We can return true. So now what I want to do is all of these, I'm going to replace with is symbol. So if, or actually it's not symbol. No, so what do I, what do I want to do here? If it is a symbol, it is, okay. Return false. Okay, yeah. So if is symbol all of this, like that. So let's copy this in here, here, like so. And we'll see if this was the problem or if there was something else. I'd still like to find an example where this is the case, but anyway, it doesn't matter too much. We still get 4,361 for our test, so that's promising. And now if we put in our input, that is the same answer we had before. So something tells me there's something else that's wrong here. Okay. That's very interesting. So where have I gone wrong? Let me just get rid of that line there. Just to triple check. Okay, that's fine. Where am I going wrong here? What have I missed? Yeah, it's the same answer I got earlier. So, something else that here. Potentially here, but that should definitely not be. I don't think there would ever be a case where that isn't, where that's a number, because if it's a number, we wouldn't be in there in the first place. But that's the one place where I didn't use my is symbol function. So if is symbol car. Okay, that's still the same answer. Now, I'm getting a bit paranoid here. I'm going to try type in my answer. 524242. 524242. I'm just worried that it might have copied in a new line or something. What is the sum of all of the part numbers in the engine schematic? It's not the right answer. Interesting. Read through this again. So the engineer explains that an engine part seems to be missing from the engine, but nobody can figure out which one. If you can add up all the part numbers in the engine schematic, it should be easy to work out which part is missing. Okay. The engine schematic, your input, consists of a visual representation of the engine. There are lots of numbers and symbols you don't really understand, but apparently any number adjacent to a symbol, even diagonally, is a part number and should be included in your sum. Periods do not count as a symbol. And we've kind of reached the conclusion that numbers don't either, but that doesn't seem to affect the results anyway. So it has to be a problem with... Surely it's a problem with one of these. So I've put in the wrong coordinates or something somewhere, and it is only breaking in my full input. So let's run through this. Well, can I would maybe like to print out... What I would maybe like to print out is all of the... Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I might debug this and make this readable. So it clearly is working. So it clearly is working for our test. So I'm not sure if there's any point in me running through this because we're clearly going to get the same answer. I think we might need to look through. I think we might need to add some print statements and look through the entire file here until we find something we disagree with. But I'd rather try and figure it out without printing out everything and going through it manually because, well, that's just going to be annoying, isn't it? Okay, let's tell you what. Let's print out... Yeah, so it should work because what it's going to do is it's going to keep going until it finds... Once it finds a number, it's going to keep going until it finds something that isn't a number, and that's when it knows it's reached the end. Oh, I wonder if numbers at the end of the line are causing issues. That's a good point. Ah. I think you might be onto something there. Which is that if our number is at the end... So we can test this out. How can we test this out? So let's find a number that's... There we go. So 328. Okay, I don't want to test it out. I think that's the problem. I'm just going to jump to the conclusion that this is the problem. I would still like to print out n here. Let's just see what we get. So obviously there's going to be quite a few numbers here, aren't there? But I would like to... Can I scroll all the way to the top? Okay. So we get 830. It has an asterisk. 743, no. 59, yes. 955, and so on. 663. 667 gets skipped. 895, 899, 826, 220. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not bothered. I think that's the problem. It's the end of the line, is it? Okay. Ah, that's a very good point. Yes, that's a great way of testing it, isn't it? So how can I make this work? Because I obviously need to then calculate the new one. So 114 isn't getting counted. But what I actually need is one that should get counted. So there's 633. There we go. So I think if I put this here, it should be the same answer. It should be the same answer. 4,361. Okay. Oh, well, I suppose... What have we done wrong here? What's the edge case here? What is the edge case here? I'm not sure there is a problem. Because if we reach... what if this is a number? What if this is a number? Let's make it 0, just so that it doesn't affect the results. I think this is what we need. Ooh, syntax error. Oh, sorry, yes, I'm sorry. I tried to run this. Alright, there we go. No, see, that still gave us 4,361. So it's still counting 633. Okay, I can't figure out if this is the problem or not. But let's try and fix it anyway. Let's assume that it is the problem. And let's fix it. So, what do we want to do? Because the problem is, so I think the problem is with how it detects if we've reached the end of the number. It detects we've reached the end of the number if it finds something that isn't a number. The problem is, if we get to the end of the line... Right, okay. If we get to the end of the line, if the number is at the end of the line, it is going to find... It is going to be right about the... Okay, how do I do this? I'm trying to think of this now. So, point I'm trying to make is if we have a number that's at the end of the line, it's going to go on to the next line, and it's either going to find a full stop, and it's going to go, okay, this is the end of the number, but now it's going to check the wrong columns. So I only want to check these two. So I only want to check the end. And by the end, I mean past the end of the number. So I only want to check these two characters if our first non-digit character is on the same line as our digit. That's what I want to do. So for every okay, that's part of it. That's part of it. Now what about this being, when it goes to the next line, everything is reset. Yes, it is. You're right. But I wonder if that's an issue. I think potentially you're right. So everything does get reset. Okay. I suppose the question is what do we want to do when we reach the end of the line? Maybe that's what we need to think about. So let's think about this first line. Or let's think about this line maybe. We found a full stop. But we didn't have a number before this, so we don't care about it. If we think about this one though, we have a full stop. This one does matter because it's the end of a number. So we want to check the top and the bottom. But now what about this? If the end of a line is a number, we want to do the check there. Okay, so if it is a number, there's one last thing to do here. So if it is a number, how do we check if we're at the end of the line? Well, we check if x is equal to the length of the line, right? Or -1. So if x, sorry, no brackets, if x is equal to the length of our line, -1, does that make sense? So if the length of the line is 10, would be at index 9. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's a good point. We need to think about the... So you're saying, so I put that in the last column, so put that here instead of here. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's just test that. We still get 4,361. I don't want to print n anymore. It's being annoying. But yeah, we're still getting 4,361. So I can't seem to replicate whatever issue we're coming across here. But I do suspect it has to do with that. So I think this potentially could be an issue here. Maybe. I haven't quite figured out if it is or not, but I think that could be an issue. Okay, but so if we're looking at a number and it's the last one in the line, well then that means we have reached the end of our number. And so what we want to do in that case, yeah, I honestly don't know here, but I don't know what the problem is exactly. So if we've reached the end of the line, If we have reached the end of the line and we're looking at a number, then we want to, well, if it's part, we want to add it to the answer. That's what we want to do, basically. And we then want to set, well, we don't need to set n equal to 0 and is part equal to false, because that will get done here, because that's fine. Okay. So if we get to the end of the line and we have found a symbol, then we want to add it. So we don't want to wait until we find something that isn't a number. Okay, now that's fine. Now let's look at this case. So what happens if... So what happens if we find a symbol at the end of the line? Or sorry, a full stop at the end of the line. Do you know what I've just realized, actually? That potentially a better way of doing this challenge isn't to find the numbers and check each one, but rather to check the symbols and then look for numbers around it. I've just realized that is potentially a better solution to this problem, but it's a little bit too late now, I think, to change it around. But that's fine. We'll ignore that for a second. So what happens if it isn't a number? Well, if n is equal to 0, that means that we have if n is equal to 0, then we don't have a number to the left of it. And in that case, we don't need to do anything. However, if n isn't equal to 0, that means we have a number here. So this is correct. Yeah, I don't think... Okay. That still gives us 4,361, which is good. When we run the input, we still get 524242. Oh no! What have we done wrong? I don't know. I was so... it's funny that I was so confident when I went to put in my answer. Have I just, like... Is this wrong? Like, have I just downloaded the code wrong? Okay, well, good. Good. That's good to know. I might need to end up rewriting the code anyway. But why is this not working? This is definitely the right input. Like, I haven't changed it accidentally. Let's just do this, just in case. Okay, that's fine. I'm just, I'm starting to go a bit crazy here. I don't think I have an option. I can't think of any edge case I haven't considered. So I think what I need to do now is to just go through and check every single n and kind of double check it myself. Yeah, that is annoying. It's very annoying. So let's print out n, I guess, every time we find one. And let's maybe print out... I think we should actually... else. I just want to print out the ones that aren't. So I might print out n. But let me do this, or does it not like this just because... Can I do this and then print n? Yeah, it doesn't like the adding. How do I do... oh, actually, I can just do this, can't I? Hang on. I can just do convert n to string. Yeah. Okay. Let's have some fun. 830. Yes. 743. No. 59. Yes. 955. Yes. 663. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 663, yes. 367, no. 895 should be a yes, it is. 899 should be yes. 826 should be yes. 220 should be yes. Go. 220 should be yes because of the minus. 284, no. 377 should be no. 419, no. Okay, 488, yes. 939, yes. We might be here a while, guys. 976. If anyone can spot it, please do let me know. Although obviously you're looking at the same thing I am here. 976. I wonder, could we... No, it's fine. So 976 is a yes. Yeah, it's fine. 679 should be yes. Yeah. 461, yes. 7, yes. 350, yes. 33, yes. 380, yes. Yeah. 151, yes. 897, yes. So far, so good. I keep getting lost when I scroll down. 897. 295, no. 105, yes. 418, yes. 481, yes. So I'm thinking here, just to make this quicker, I suspect... Oh yeah, sorry. Well, even then you couldn't see the full stuff anyway. But yeah, good point. Thank you. I'm trying to speed up this process, and I suspect the problem is not that we are... Okay, well, let's try and speed it up. Let's try and speed it up. Can I search in the output here? Is there a way to search in the output? If I just copy this... Because what I actually care about is the numbers that it thought weren't. Those are the ones that are slightly more interesting to me now. I don't need this anymore. That might be a good way of making it slightly quicker. Can I split this up? I'll put this on the right. Put this on the left. We can hopefully see a little bit more now. And now I'd like to have a full line. Okay, make it smaller. Don't need that. Can I... There we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to make this a little bit more readable for everyone here. So we'll just put here. There we go. Okay. And so I need to go back to highlighting all my notes. So 284 was a no. So we'd gotten to 151. Where's the 151? 897. There. 295 is a no. Sorry, let's go back to this. I go towards them. Sorry, okay. Now. 295 was a no. Next one is 680. So where's that? It's there. And that appears to be correct. The next one is 266. That's correct. 589 is correct. 365 is correct. 644 is correct. 225 is correct. 836 is correct. And then we're going down to the next 680, which is down here. That's correct. Go down further. Now we're looking for an 866 here. That's correct. 832 is here. That's correct. 15, which is here. That's correct. sorry, looked at the 15. Yeah, 79 is here. That's correct. I know this is really, really boring, guys. I'm sorry. I was hoping I'd be done and moving on to part 2 now, but appears not. 563 is a no, but you know, this is good. We're looking for bugs, and that's always fun. 489 is a no. 152. Okay, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Aha! No, sorry. Have I found an issue? Sorry, so 377, or am I looking at 377? Okay, sorry. This 377. Let's go back. 79 was a no. That's correct. Thank you. I appreciate that. 563. Correct. Then we have 489. And that's correct. And then we have 152. No. 489 is correct. Sorry. And then we have 377. That's correct. And it's now the next 152. So I went back and looked at the very same column again. That was where the issue was, sorry. There's 152, and that one is correct. How many lines are there in here? Sorry, hang on. Line 170. God, we're not even close. Oh god. Oh, there has to be a better way of doing this than checking every single one manually. Because we're going to be here forever, and I don't want to be here forever. Well, I can't be here forever. I need to go in a little while. So I'd rather like to have this solved. Let's go back to our code here and think about it. Let's do the rubber duck method of explaining the code. I wonder if I should check whether my H value is correct. I suspect there isn't an issue with it, but I just want to make sure. Sorry, I don't want to print these anymore. Not gonna like this, is it? $140. Is that correct? Let's bring our input back. 140, is that correct? Yes, it is. So that's not an issue. Yeah, that's quite late. That's a late dinner even for me, and I usually have a late dinner. So enjoy your dinner. Thank you very much. I'm not taking it too seriously. I would like to get the right answer though, and I don't care too much about writing very good code. Part of the point of me doing this is just getting a bit more familiar with Python and learning a little bit more about it. And obviously, you know, I'm doing day 3 when it's day 11. But yeah, it's just a little bit of fun. But yeah, I hope your Advent of Code is going well as well. But thank you for watching anyway, and for helping out as well. I will be here, just trying to solve this. Okay, sorry, just checking my phone there. So we're gonna keep searching here. I really don't want to keep looking through the input. Oh dear, I didn't mean to do that. I really don't want to keep looking through the input to find something that's wrong. So instead, I'm gonna look through my code and see if there's something wrong. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna go through the code, and I'm gonna try and explain it. And hopefully, that's gonna kind of very quickly bring us something that hopefully I'm gonna, in the process of explaining it, I'm gonna find something that is clearly wrong. So our is symbol function isn't wrong. We know that because yeah, just checking if it's not a full stop and it's not a number. So that's it. Well, maybe I should look over that, because maybe that's an assumption that we've made that isn't correct. But the problem here, which makes it very hard, is the fact that our test data and our input data, our actual kind of input, are rather my program is giving the correct answer for the test data, but it's not giving the correct answer for the input data. So that's what's causing issues here, quite a few. So okay, so where's the problem then? So we need to figure out what counts as a symbol or not. That's this function here. So we get a character into this function, we check if the character is a full stop, then it is not a symbol. Return false. If the character is between a 0 and a 9, then it's a digit, and that means it's also not a symbol. And then finally, we if we find something that isn't, I wonder if we should check. I wonder if we should check if car is not equal to sorry, if car is equal to the new line, this should also be false, right? The new line does not count as a symbol. I think that's important to bear in mind. Please tell me that wasn't the problem. Let's just test that this works with our test. Can I just get rid of this for a minute? Oh, sorry. 4361. This works for our test. Let's try it for input. Input. Ah, we have got ourselves a different answer. So was that all it was? Let's try this out. And then we'll see if we can figure out why that was an issue, if this was the problem. Way! Oh god, that was so much that was so much. I knew it'd be simple. And I'm so glad that I was about to skip this part of the code and go, this isn't going to be a problem. I know this is correct. And it turned out to be the part that was causing the issues. So it considered the new line to be a symbol. And so, for example, and I'm glad. So, for example, 785 would have been considered a number that should be counted. There we go. That was the problem. That's all it was. So if we had done this, it would have broken. So let's test that with our sorry, that's the wrong one. I don't know why I still have these open. There we go. If we I just want to try this with the test data again. Okay, this gives us a different answer. That's fine. Sorry, that's correct. All right, let's go back here. So say we need a number that isn't going to get counted. So 114 shouldn't be counted. But if 114, so just to try it out here. Right, so 4,361. If we put 114 on the right-hand side there. This should now still give us the same answer. But hopefully, if I do this... Okay, that's fine. Yeah, there you go. That's a different answer. Because it's counting 114. Because the new line beside it is getting counted as a... So the problem was actually this. This was actually the problem. That line. But anyway, well, really it's this function here. But yeah, okay. There we go. We have figured it out. That is 3A. So we only have an hour. I only have an hour for 3B. But I'm gonna have a go at it. I think it's important. So the first half of the puzzle is complete. Provides 1 gold star. So I now have 5 gold stars. There we go. Part 2. The engineer finds the missing part and installs it in the engine. As the engine springs to life, you jump in the closest gondola, finally ready to ascend to the water source. You don't seem to be going very fast though. Maybe something is still wrong? Fortunately, the gondola has a phone labelled help, so you pick it up and the engineer answers. Before you can explain the situation, she suggests that you look out the window. There stands the engineer, holding a phone in one hand and waving with the other. You're going so slowly that you haven't even left the station. You exit the gondola. The missing part wasn't the only issue. One of the gears in the engine is wrong. A gear is any star symbol that is adjacent to exactly 2 part numbers. Its gear ratio is the result of multiplying those numbers together. This time, you need to find the gear ratio of every gear and add them all up so that the engineer can figure out which gear needs to be replaced. So, consider the same schematic again. In this schematic, there are 2 gears. First is in the top left. It has part numbers 467 and 35. So its gear ratio is 16,345. The second gear is in the lower right. Well, we have another gear here. Second gear is in the lower right. Its gear ratio is flat. The gear adjacent to 617 is not a gear because it is only adjacent to 1 part number. Adding up all of the gear ratios produces that. Okay. So, I did mention this earlier, which was that I kind of figured out while I was trying to find this bug that potentially a better solution would have been, instead of looking through and finding every number, it would have been to look through and find every symbol. I think that's potentially a more efficient use of resources. So maybe I'll go back at some stage and fix that, but I probably don't have the time to do it today. But maybe I'll do that at some stage. But this time we're actually going to have to do this. So when I start 3B, my second part of this puzzle, I am actually going to need to go through and find gears. In theory, I could still do it by finding the numbers, but that's just going to get really, really messy, and it's just the complete wrong way to go about this. So I need to find a gear. Now, when I find a gear, I now need to find numbers around it. So it's going to be a similar situation of I need to get the 3, or I suppose, yeah, find numbers within that area. The problem is, let's consider the star here. We would find the 7, but obviously 7 isn't the number, it's 467. So we need to be a little bit smarter about that. And similarly, we would find 3 and 5, but those aren't 2 separate ones, they are together just 1 number. So it's an interesting problem. Definitely an interesting problem. Okay, so how can we do this? I need to think for a minute, so forgive me if I'm a little bit quiet. I'm just trying to think of a solution here. So I suppose in a way it's similar, isn't it? So, or I suppose yeah, okay. So here's an idea, and we might revise it later, but here's an idea. We find a star. Sweet. We now look all around it. So we'll start at the top left. We find a 7. Okay, what we want to figure out then is this the end of the number? Or is this yeah, is this the end of the number? Is it the start of the number? Is, you know, where in the number is it? So we look to the right. We see a full stop. That means that's, well, we find something that isn't a number. So that 7 has to be the start of the end of the number. Sorry, but the question now is it the start of the number, or is it somewhere, or is it just the end? So we go and look at the character on the left. We see that there's a 6. So we now convert that number to a 67. We go another one to the left, and again we keep going until we find something that isn't a number. And finally we have our number. We can keep looking then. We'd obviously look at this one, we don't care. We look at this one, we don't care. Look at here, we don't care. We find 3. Look to the left, nothing, so that means this is the start. We look to the right, a number, that means this is okay, actually this is maybe not the correct way. So actually, instead of looking at each individual one around the asterisk, maybe need to look at the top, the bottom, the left, and the right as 4 kind of whole units. So once we find the asterisk, okay, once we find the asterisk, we look at the line above it, and we ask ourselves if there is a number in between those indices. Okay, let's start writing some code. I think this will be easier once we start. I think this will be easier once we start. So it's going to be 3b. We are going to open our test input. Our answer is going to be 0. We're going to read our lines. Height of the lines is potentially still going to be relevant. Yes, it will be. That's fine. So a symbol. Do we still want that? Maybe. Not sure. I'm not quite sure yet that we actually need it. So in part. We need n. I think I might need to kind of simplify this now. So what do I want to do in here? Well, I just want to check if we find a cog. This is what I want to do. So if character equal to our cog, or gear, I should say, not a cog, but basically the same thing, then this is where the fun starts. Isn't it just? So we want to find out if this is a gear. How do we find out if this is a gear? If our y is greater than 0, then we want to look above, regardless of where. Okay, we then want to. Sorry, I'm trying to do English here, and it's tricky. We don't care about. Okay, so actually, then we need to check the x. So if x is greater than 0, we need to look to the left. Look left. If x is less than the width, so that's going to be the length of the line, -1, then we want to look right. And finally, if y is less than the height, -1 potentially. Let's see. So this one, let's say we had a cog here, this would be 9. Yeah, so it's -1, I think. Sorry, let me just double check that. So for index is 9. 9 is less than 10. But we don't want to check below. We only want to check below. We're at 8. Yeah, okay, that's correct then. So then we want to look below. Look below. Okay, so I think it might be quicker to... Or it might, the simplest cases, I think, would be looking left and looking right. Because what we want to do is, if we find a cog, let's say, I'm trying to find one that has a number beside it, preferably. There we go. If we find a cog, I want to look to the left. If that's a number, then I want to keep looking to the left until we find something that isn't a number. Okay. Now, another way of doing that... I wonder if instead of going left, can we do it the other way around? Can we find... Can we find... I just closed something that probably didn't mean to close. I think it was that. There we go. I want to go through the row. I want to go through the row. And check for n. And sorry, and create the numbers. Right, you need to open Discord there. Close it. Nope. Close it, is it? There we go. Sorry, I know you're just seeing me struggle here. I know that maybe isn't that fun. I'm just trying to... I'm thinking. I know watching me think might not be very exciting, especially when you're just looking at my screen and not my face. Okay, I'm just trying to think if there's a better way of doing this rather than... I think there isn't. I think I just need to look left. I think by looking left, I mean just start reading to the left. But see, the problem is... that's not very efficient. I did say I didn't care too much about efficiency. So what I want to do Okay. So here's an idea. I think looking right will be easier. So let's look right first. I have an idea for looking left, but it's a little bit convoluted. So I think I'll explain looking right first. Looking right should be fairly straightforward. We just want to find the first symbol, or rather find the first full stop. But it might not necessarily be a full stop, right? That's a problem as well, because we could have something like this as well. So that's something we need to bear in mind. So there could be another symbol that isn't. So the first thing that isn't a number, find that and that's going to be our substring. So let's have a look at because the Python find function here is very useful. The string find function. Value. Problem is find how do I phrase this? Find any of. Yeah, I don't want to just get a true or false. I want to get the index. Okay, that's okay. What we'll do is, we'll do this properly. So we now want to go for, let's say, xi, let's call it, in range, starts from x and goes to length of the line. If line, and how did we do it here? We did it y, x, yeah. So if line y, xi is greater than or equal to 0, or and now for every star, we're gonna have years, let's call it, well, numbers, let's call it. This is gonna be just an empty list, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna append it x is greater than 0. Sorry, we're doing this in the wrong place, aren't we? So, a couple of things I need to do first. Okay. We said we wanted to look right. I am right in wanting a numbers list. That's correct. Now, we want to look right. So, if line y and x plus 1, so let's define its number function here. Its number character, and it will just return the car. Just do that. So if is number, then what we want to do is, well, let's, okay, we want not append no, not yet. N is going to be equal, let's say n is equal to, well, int. Hey, welcome back. We did fix it. I can show you what the problem was. The problem was we were missing this condition when we were checking if it was a symbol or not. The problem was the new line was being considered a symbol. And so I actually was able to find a way to break the test, which was that if we had a number at the end of the line that wasn't that didn't have a symbol around it, it got counted as a symbol because the new line counted as a symbol. So this, I changed it. The original one was like that. This was the original test. But if we put the 114, which isn't, you can see, isn't a symbol originally, but if we put it at the end of the line, where it still isn't a symbol, it got counted as a symbol because the new line was considered a symbol. That is literally all it was. But thankfully I didn't have to run through the entire input. I was able to just look at this function, think about it for a while, and then fix it. So now we're looking at 3b, and as you correctly, I think I found it pretty quickly after you left, to be honest. But yeah. Now we're looking at part 2, and we're trying to figure out, so how can we basically get the numbers that we need from around the gear. So we're looking for the asterisks, the star symbols, and we're looking for the numbers around it. And I'm starting by looking at the numbers on the right because that one's the slightly more straightforward one. So I first check if the number immediately to the right, or if the character immediately to the right of the gear is a number. If it is a number, then we now need to keep going to the right until we find the end of the number. Because there was an example here, let's say, where is this now? For example, this case here, we have the star, and we find this 5, but obviously 5 isn't the number, it's 506, that's the number that we care about. So, we now need to keep going to the right. So, actually our n is going to be, it's not going to be, actually, we can just do it from here, can't we? We can do line, head at the line, we can go line, and then we want to go from, line, say, no, so I don't want to say, well, I suppose it's lines, but we don't necessarily need to do that. But anyway, that's fine, we can do that. So it's lines, y, and then it's going to be x plus 1 up until we do lines y well, no, sorry, hang on. I'm getting a little bit too confused now. So let's go back to the find function here, which I think we had here a second ago. Nope, this wasn't it. But I had this somewhere. Python find method. Yeah, see, we have a start and an end. So it's going to be, okay. So it's going to be it's going to be lines, and we're going to go from. Yeah, so you're right. I could do a while loop. I was going to do a loop, but actually I've realized I don't necessarily need to. I could just use the find method. Although, will it work? Because it potentially. Okay, let's try it out. If it doesn't work, we'll do the while. But I think I could just use the find method to make my life a little bit simpler here. So we're going to use a substring of y, and we're going to look at x. From x to, it's going to be lines at y dot find, and what I want to find, yeah, see, this is the problem. What I want to find is any symbol that isn't a number. So yeah, so you're okay. We'll try it with a full stop, but potentially there might be a situation here where we have something like this, and that won't work. That's why I wanted to use a loop. Let's just try this. It'll work for our test. No. Okay, no. You're right. Let's do this properly. Let's do this with a loop. So let's go back. So we have figured out that we have a number. So now n is equal to n is equal to, let's convert it to an integer. That lines blah this. And now I want to do this up until I find something that isn't a... So okay, you said to use a while loop. I like the idea of using a while loop. How do I do a while loop? So while... how do I do a while loop in Python? I've never done a while loop in Python, I don't think. Oh, I suppose, yeah, okay. That's fine, we can do it manually. Okay, so then... while... Let's call it C. Is not a number. Or while is number. And let's call it C. We want to multiply n by 10. We want to add C. And C is equal to let's make something called like a distance from our original. It's gonna start off as 1, and then C is gonna be equal to lines y and then x plus d. So actually d is gonna start off as 2. Well, is number C. I'm gonna multiply by 10. Add that in, and we're gonna go d plus plus. Does that work in Python? And then C equals lines times d. And finally, we should have n. So I just want to print it out, maybe. I just want to print out n if we get to this. Syntax error. Great. Yes, we don't need a colon. All of these are going to cause issues. Okay, let's comment them all out. Okay, D++ doesn't work. Okay. 0. The only number that got printed was 0. As well, potentially there isn't any examples here. Yeah, there we go. There actually isn't any examples. So that's okay. That's okay. Well, I suppose... Yeah, okay. No, that is okay. Let's add a number here. Let's, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. And let's run this again. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Sorry, let me answer your questions there. What language did I code in before? Mostly Java and C++. So I come from a place of very kind of C-based programming languages. So Python is quite new to me. I've used it a few times, Python, in the past, but I've never actually properly learned it. So Python's always been kind of straightforward enough that if I ever need to use it, I can try and figure it out. But I want to try and get more comfortable with it. Why d equals 2? Well, because I already looked at +1. Because I don't want to bother checking. I don't really care about going into this while unless I know that the number beside it. Actually, well, no, you're right. Let's set n equal to 0. You're right, this is simpler. C equals... So let's set n equal to 0. And then we'll start off with d equal to 1. Let's clean this up a little bit. There's an auto format thing in Sublime. I don't know the shortcut. There we go. So we start off with the distance equal to 1. Let's just check if this still works. It does. Okay. That's fine. So we look if the number to the right. In fact, we don't even need this, do we? Yeah, we don't need this. So we start at 0. Distance 1. character being that, and then it's a number, we add it to n and so on. And so now finally, what we want to do here is if n is not equal to 0, that means if we found a number, let's print it out just to test, and let's add it to our list of numbers. Dot add n. Let's just try this out. And sorry, I missed the. Sorry, append. Okay. Even if the case is blah blah, it is going to add 0 to nums. Yeah, so that's why I think I've fixed it now, right? So if n is not equal to 0, then we can append it to the list of numbers. Now, why am I getting a 0 print? It's still, oh, because I'm printing out the answer. There we go. Yeah, so I think I've fixed that now, because we should have an example of that in our tests, I'm pretty sure. For example, this one doesn't have anything connected to it on the right-hand side, which is the only one we're looking at. So that's correct. There we go. So that checks the right-hand side. But what if, okay, yeah, good question. What if it is 0? That's a good point. I think the reason that doesn't cause any issues is that if it is 0, and we have, so let's say we had something like this. So our condition for this to be a valid gear is that we have 2 numbers attached to it. This now does have 2 numbers attached to it. And so what we do is we multiply them together, don't we? And that's our gear ratio. Exactly. Yeah, it's a result of multiplying these 2 numbers together. Exactly. So if one of them is 0, just like you said, then the gear ratio is 0 and it doesn't affect the sum. So that's fine. But yeah, you're right in bringing that up. That's a good point. I hadn't really properly considered that. So I think thank you for pointing that out. But yes, we actually don't need to worry about it in this case, which is nice. Okay, now actually this code is going to be very, very similar for looking to the left. All I need to do, so n starts off as 0, d starts off as 1. This is now x minus d. And then we just go d minus equals 1. Or no, sorry, distance still increases. That's fine. Sorry, this is minus d. So let's see about this now. So we printed out 716. Why did we print out 716? Okay. Slight issue is the fact that our number is backwards. Okay, so the maths is wrong. So we actually want to... how do we want to do this? So we don't want to multiply by 10 and then add it. We want to add... We want to add C multiplied by 10 multiplied by D. I think that's the maths that we need to do. Nope, not even close. Okay, hang on, but let's see. I don't think I'm too far off. So it should find 7. Now 7 multiplied by 10 by 1, that's 70. So actually that might need to be minus 1, but that's okay. Then it should find 1, and so it should... We have 70. Okay, hang on, let's go minus 1. Let's see if this is all it was. 130. Okay. No. But let's see. So let's walk through that. So we find... Find the 7. 7 times 10 times 0. That's 0. No, we don't want to do that. Sorry. We want to multiply by 1, then by 10, then by 100. So it's, sorry, so is it d? It's, yes, you're right. It's 10 to the power of d minus 1. You're right. So it's 10, yeah. Can I do, I don't think this works in Python, does it? Yeah, you're, okay, oh, great, thank you for that. So, I was going to say, I don't think I can just do to the power of like that. Does this work? So if it's to the power of 0, yes, yeah. There we go, thank you, yeah, perfect. We get 617, so that's correct. So, we have done the left, we have done the right. Annoyingly, those were the simpler ones. So now, let's consider the case for looking above it. So how do we do above it? So what we want to do is we want to, I suppose we want to find a number. Let me see, let me think. So we want to check if, I suppose we start with the middle one, and if that's a number, then we want to go to the left and then also go to the right. Now, if that isn't a number, we want to go to the, look at the number on the left and then go all the way to the left. And then look at the right and go all the way to the right. That's what we want. Okay. Wrong code. Let's do that. So if y is equal to 0, if is number lines at y minus 1 x. Sorry, again with the unnecessary parentheses. So this is going to be complicated, but else this is slightly more straightforward, because if it isn't a number, then we essentially want to do both of these. We want to look to the left and look to the right. So we want to go, let's see if this makes sense. N is equal to 0. So n is equal to 0, distance is equal to 1. Our character is going to be y minus 1, x minus d. And then this is still correct, y minus 1. And then we want to do the same thing again, but going right. So let's just use this. Y minus 1, sorry, and then x plus d. Now, this isn't quite right, because, no, sorry, this is right. So if it's, yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, actually, that this is horrible for, we're doing the same thing again and again. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do that, you're right. I don't think we need this anymore. So let's go left. And what do we need? All we need is our kind of starting position, don't we? So our x and our y. And we're going left. Let's go with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to return. If n is equal to, not equal to 0, we return. Well, actually, it doesn't matter what n is. We just return n. Like so. Lines 2, yes, you're right, sorry. So now this is going to be, yeah, lines x, y. So this is just going to be y, x. There you go. Okay. Yeah, thank you, you're right. And then, well, let's fine go right. Again, we need lines x and y. And this time the code is this one. So that's correct, and then we just return n. Okay. So now what we do here is if x is here, this is going left. So if let's say n is equal to go left, lines just x and y. Yeah. I actually don't think we need this check, but that's fine. We'll leave it there. And if n is not equal to 0, we let's print it just for debugging, and then we also add it to the list. So numbers dot append n. Perfect. And then we'll do the same thing here, but go right. Okay, and now that is much prettier, you're right. So if now we do this, what happened there? Okay, that's fine. Go right, or sorry, we go left, and we go right. Yeah, I really am. And I haven't done it too much, but I do it every now and then. It still looks very weird to me to not have a semicolon there. It still feels like something's missing. Okay. So this was the case for when we have, for example, something like this. So this is a relatively easy case. But the next thing is to consider this case, where we have a number in the center. Because when we have a number in the center, we want to go left, and then we also want to go right, and we want to somehow combine those two. So that's what we need to do. So mistake here. This should be y minus 1. So I think I think we should be able to just combine them using maths. It's just about figuring out the maths, and given that maths, I think we might not need to do this. But anyway, that's fine. So we can go left, and we can go right. But yeah, so actually, okay, no, that's fine. We can go left and we can go right, but let's not append it. So I don't think, do I need to check if n is equal to 0? I don't think I do. No, I do. Because I'm then going to be using how many numbers we have in here. Unless I... Yeah, okay, that's fine. But let's keep checking if n is equal to 0. So if we have a number here, when we go to the left, we're going to get 235. When we look to the right, we're going to get 545. So we have the numbers 235 and 545. So what we want to do, well, I suppose just to make our lives easier, we can do x minus 1 when we're going left. So that way we don't have the duplicated 5. And so then we need to multiply this by basically the length of this. Or, well, it's 10 to the power of the length of this. So if we go 23, so if we had like 23 and 5, we would need to multiply this by, it is, yeah, by 10, and then we add 5. Yeah, okay. So 10 to the power of the length of it. So let's call it L. have 4. And now n is going to be equal to L times 10 to the power of the length. Can I just do can I do the length of an int, or will that give me an error? I can just convert it to a string otherwise. Plus 4. So L, I'm just going to put brackets to make this a little bit easier to read. So L times 10 to the power of the length right hand side plus 4. And let's just print out n to check if this is fine, and we'll append, well, if n, oops, if n is not equal to 0, we print n and we append that to the list of numbers. Let's see if this works. This is, let's go with this, sorry. So we should see the number 23545 printed out. Yeah, int has no length, that's fine. Let's convert it to a string, and then, is this pretty? Not really, that's okay. Like so. Okay, I don't think that worked, but let's see what happened. So we got 467, that's correct. We got 123, that's correct. We got, we aren't looking for the bottom at the moment, so that's okay. We then got 245. That isn't correct, so I think we did something wrong there. We'll have a look at that in a minute. 617, 755. Okay, so I think the maths is wrong. So let's print out L and N, because I want to figure out if this worked or not. Print L. Can I do? Sorry, L and or, not L and N. Does this work? Yeah, so I printed 2 and 45. Sorry. There we go. I'll keep it there. There we go. So it printed out 2 and 45. So it printed out that. Okay. So I actually don't want to do x minus 1. So this will now probably print 23 and 45. Correct. But I actually want to do 23 and 545. This should be x minus 1. And there we go. So that's correct. There we go. Is this pretty? I don't know. But it'll do. Yeah, exactly. In the right hand side, I'll do x minus 1. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Can I clean this up? Yes, I probably can, because I'm doing, like, I'm going left here and I'm going right here. And then I'm just appending both. So really, yes. So let's clean this up slightly. So let's just make a little bit of space. Want to go left. But in this one, I don't want to. Okay, we'll leave it. We'll leave it just because it's simple. I know it's not readable particularly, but it's simple. Now for the bottom, it should be the same code, isn't it? So if we're looking below, it should be the same code. Let's copy paste. Amazingly, the indentation remained correct. But instead of being y minus 1, it'll be y plus 1. Y plus 1. Y plus 1. Y plus 1. And let's just change our test code here so that it works. So, for example, we could do like a 23 here. Let's see what that does. So, 467, I'll make this, I'll erase this so you can see it. 467, that's correct. 1, 2, 3, that's correct. It should print out 35, which it did, great. Then 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, and 617. It didn't print out 0, which is fine. And then 23. And then 755. And 598. Great. I think this is working. I think this is working. So now the final step and good timing because I don't have a lot of time left, is we need to, its gear ratio is a result of multiplying those two numbers together. And a gear is only a symbol that is adjacent to exactly to two part numbers. So once we're finished with all of this, we want to check if the length of numbers is exactly 2. Then we want to, our ratio is going to be numbers 0 times numbers at 1. And we're going to add this to our answer. So answer plus equals our ratio. And if we print out our answer, hopefully we should get that right. And let's get rid of all of our print statements. I trust that this is going to be right. We're going to fix our test data because I messed it all up just to test out a few different things. This is their test data. Okay. I'm running this on the test. Number is not defined. Sorry, numbers. Oh. Okay. We get that big number. 467835. 467835. Okay, now you did say earlier that this was happening to you where it worked for the test data, but it didn't work for your actual data. So let's see if I made the same mistake or if I can go home. Input. We get this lovely number. No, your answer is too low. Ah, I didn't realize it gives you a little bit of a hint. So there's a few that I'm not counting then. You're stuck. Make sure you're using the full input data. That's fine. Okay, my answer is too low. I have 15 minutes exactly to get this working. So it's a bit of a speed run this. But okay. So the answer is too low. That means there are some numbers it isn't finding. It isn't finding. There's some gears it isn't finding, I should say. So again, I suspect new lines might be causing issues here. So how could I test this? If I were to put... it's a little bit cursed. I do think it's a problem with the new lines here again. Oh god, let's go back to the code. I suppose I do want to print out the numbers for every single one. Let's see if I can just kind of find it pretty quickly. Let's print out the numbers. So quite a few of them, obviously. First one it found 830, 976, which would be this one. Well, that's correct. Let's just go through. So we have another asterisk here. We have 59 and a 7. That's right. We have another one here. That would be 663 and 33. That's correct. This one here should be 151,897. That's correct. And here 895,105, 899,418. I'm just hoping there will be one. See, what I actually want to find is one maybe close to the edges, because that's what I want to find. One that is close to the edges. So no, I am determined. So that's I'm hoping that I don't have to walk through the whole input. I was just hoping to find something obvious straight away. I haven't. So the next thing I want to do now is look for things. I want to look for things that are close to the edge, because again, I suspect new lines might have something to do with this. It's like 963 here, maybe. But the fact that it's too low, it tells me that there's some that it isn't counting. So it's not... there's somewhere it's not finding... Well, it could be the maths, I suppose. It might not be the actual gear ratios. It could be the maths. that's annoying. Okay. Again, I was just hoping to be done there, but sadly I'm not. So again, what's the issue here? I think it probably has to do with something. So it has something to do with new lines, I suspect. Again, that's what I'm kind of suspect of now. So I'm a bit worried about cases like this 755, for example. If I change this slightly, that should still give me the same result for test. Let's try that out. Get 4673835. And it's the same as if we had done this. 4678335. 4678335. Okay. What about the other way around? What if we have 755 here? Four, 6, 7, 8, 3, 5. What about here? I'm hoping to find something wrong with this now. This is the bit of the code that I'm not too confident on the logic working correctly. This should give me a different answer now, but it's because the 755 is now too far away. So that's correct. Okay. That doesn't appear to be a problem. I'm going to just make these all dots at the moment because they don't matter at the moment. Let's check that 598 is working. Yeah. Again, just go through and keep moving it. 598. And now it's, yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Nope, wrong file, sorry. Okay, that's correct. Try moving 755 to the next line. So, something like this. Sorry, not a space there. That. Oh, you meant? Sorry. 755598. What if I put a 5 there and I make this one further? This happens here. Okay, so it goes 75 and 598, which is correct. But that's fine. Okay. I'm worried now about, oops, I need to go full screen. I'm worried now about single digits. I wonder if I'm overlooking single digit some reason somewhere. I am quite confident that moving right and moving left on the same one is working fine. I am just worried about the top and the bottom, because that's the kind of slightly more fragile part of the code, I suspect. Like so. Sorry, like so. I don't think this will be an issue. Yeah. Or have I got it wrong? Let me put this here. So obviously we shouldn't get anything there. Oh. Ooh, I found a bug. Okay. So line 25 and go right. Right, we don't have which gets called in line 80. Yeah, so that makes sense. So we want to check that we only want to do this if x is less than this. Again, with the parentheses we don't need. And likewise, we want to check if x is greater than 0 here. We actually do want to do the same thing at the top as well. So this should work. Well, it's still going to work. This need to be -2. Have I got this the wrong way around? With x, because when we do with the height, no, it's height -1. No, that I don't think it should be -2. Why is this still giving me an error now? Well, it's giving me an error here. Why is this still giving me an error here? Yeah, so we're doing x plus 1, but I'm only doing x plus 1 now if we can do x plus 1. If I were to change this to a 2, I think it'd work. Yeah, see, that does work. But why does that need to be -2? That doesn't make sense to me. Because x... Right, so D is equal to... Sorry, I am wary of the fact that I am going to need to stop streaming in a minute. But yeah, so D is equal to 1 initially, you're right. But X will be here. So yes, you're right, X plus 1 would be out of range. But I have now added an if here, which checks if... This should check if it's in range. Basically, it makes sure that it can't go out of range, because X would be less than the length of the line. So the length of the line would be 10, and here X would be 9. The 9 is not less than 9, so it shouldn't call this. Anyway, it works if I put a 2 on it. Okay, sadly I need to go. So I'm going to have to leave this till, well, for another time. I'm probably going to solve it off stream. And I'll probably stream at some stage tomorrow to do day 4. I'll go through the solution for this if I do solve it. But yeah, I need to go. So thank you for joining. Thank you for helping me as well. You've been great help. Josh as well, if you're still watching. Great, thanks for helping. And yeah, I'll see you maybe tomorrow.